Hello, and welcome to the Storyboarding at Blizzard, Iteration, Collaboration, and Murlocs, a CTN panel. I'm your moderator, Jake Patton, lead editor for Story and Franchise Development Department's Animation and Cinematics team at Blizzard Entertainment. For the uninitiated, Blizzard Entertainment's cinematic experiences have been an immutable fixture in the gaming and animation worlds for over 25 years. Whether it is Sylvanas cracking the sky in World of Warcraft, Winston and Tracer saving civilians in Overwatch, Kerrigan summoning her swarm in StarCraft, or some unfortunate adventurers finding the tomb of Lilith in Diablo. All of these fantastic visual adventures had to start with the first line put onto digital paper for our storyboard animatics. The storyboard process is instrumental to building our cinematic experiences at Blizzard. Together with the writing and editorial teams, our storyboard artists help bring to life the imagery and plan for our cinematics. And today, I have the pleasure of being joined by several storyboard artists from our creative development team, part of our story and franchise development department.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Koizumi, and I'm a storyboard artist here at Blizzard. And prior to coming to Blizzard, I worked in the 2D animation industry doing a variety of things. I worked on an indie feature. I worked on the Curious George movie as a background painter and an animator. And I also worked at a small games company doing animation. And doing freelance storyboarding, I realized, I really love storyboarding the most. And so I came to Blizzard and wanted to make a career about it, or a career with it. And I've been here ever since.
Hi there, I'm Ted Boontonakit. I'm also one of the storyboard artists here. My background is everything from fine arts, comic books, fashion illustration, commercial storyboards, and I've done over 30 Hollywood live action films. And 11 years ago, Blizzard came calling, and here I am, and I'm looking forward to 11 more years.
Hey guys, I'm Mio Del Rosario. I'm one of the storyboard artists at SFD. I came from TV animation doing concept designs, and then later on I switched to doing revisions for storyboards. And then I found out my love for storyboarding, so I took on the opportunity to start doing that as a full-time gig. And then later on, I'm here at Blizzard. So glad to join. Glad that you guys can join us.
Hey guys, my name is Erie Yoon. I'm a storyboard artist at Blizzard with all these guys. I came from Georgia to study Vista, but then I realized I really love storyboarding. So since I've been storyboarding for Nickelodeon and Disney and a bunch of other studios on the side, and somehow came to Blizzard to work with many talented people here.
Hey everybody, I am Jerry Gaylord. I'm a storyboard artist here at Blizzard. My background is in comics. I've done plenty of stuff for Boom Studios like IDW and Archie. I got into animation working on Ultimate Spider-Man first, then went over to Warner Brothers for a while, did some Scooby-Doo and some fun design stuff. I've done plenty of freelance design, and now I'm here at Blizzard making video games. So yeah, having fun.
Yes, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Let's jump right in. Mike, can you give us a little bit of a rundown on what exactly is CDev?
Sure. So CDev stands for Creative Development. It's one of our departments within a bigger department that is Story and Franchise Development. And CDev, basically, we're responsible for the story and pre-production of our cinematics. And the teams within CDev, we have our directors, our writers, visual development artists, sculptors. We have a lore team who are like our historians. So they're in charge of all the characters and they know all the kind of backstories of everyone. And we have publishing. And we have our storyboard team, which is what we'll share about today. And currently, our team is 9 artists, and we have 2 producers. So yeah, we can make a soccer team, right? And I guess if you could describe the culture of our team, we're very iterative. we like to brainstorm and come up with ideas and try to work together to find the best kind of ideas for our stories, and we're very collaborative. So we interact with each other a lot, not only with our team but also kind of the different teams within CDEV. And we draw Murlocs too sometimes.
It's a very important part of the process. So we are a shorts focused studio. Since the main content we create and provide are bite-sized cinematics leading up to game releases, supporting new content, and sometimes injected into the game for the players to experience during gameplay. Erie, can you tell us about what it means for your day-to-day project to project?
Yes. So if I were to be working at, let's say, Overwatch, and today, the next day, I could be pulled to like a project for Diablo, which is a total different project, total different genre, the total different team of team of directors and editors and artists, writers. So that's like an everyday thing in Blizzard.
And as far as the type of work, I mean, we cover a lot of different genres. What are some of the types of things we cover with all of our different pieces?
There's fantasy, like high fantasy, like the World of Warcraft. We have action adventure for Overwatch. We have like the fun musical kind and Hearthstone. We have horror, like thriller type of for Diablo.
So we've got everything from singing and dancing to jump scares. Got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And somewhere in between there is some dragons and laser guns and superhero type stuff.
No,
Yeah.
we have a couple of directors in house that are musically inclined, very, very, accomplished musicians in their own right.
Okay, so it sounds like in general, because of all the flexibility and the agility and the adaptation that the storyboarding team needs to sort of flex almost every day, there are lots of challenges and opportunities to work on a ton of different stuff. Mio, could we dive a little bit deeper into sort of like some of the more technical nuts and bolts of how you tackle the work?
Right. Well, kind of like what Erie mentioned earlier, that we have a lot of genres, a lot of like different projects going on, and as a team, we're kind of like spread out. Like I'll be doing something else, and then Ted, Erie, Mike, Jerry, they can be doing something else. We don't necessarily follow a certain path or a certain kind of like a kickoff when we get launched into a project. Sometimes we have time, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have the script, sometimes we only have story beats. So it's the same way with our process. It's all also mixed. It's a mixed bag. But ultimately, one of the most driving forces that we have to take into consideration what the director's vision, and also the game team's goal for that cinematic. So we do a lot of like iterations, a lot of like brainstorming, a lot of thumbnailing using post-it markers, whiteboards, and sometimes like we get to pitch our own ideas just like acting it out or verbally. So there's like a lot of stuff. And I remember there was a time when we don't even have like enough time to prepare for it. So I remember this one story where Mike was telling me that it feels like we're getting Halo dropped into like a mission of like we're about to head on to this unknown mission, and we just have to be prepared for that.
That sounds like a lot of fun, actually. Well, maybe not the dropping in from an airplane. That sounds scary, but it makes me beg the question of who is the best dancer and singer for all the Hearthstone stuff. If we have any performers in the group, is it Jerry? I think it's Jerry.
It's definitely me. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, even though it's not in my description, but I came from a song and dance background as well. I was on the stage.
Oh, so it's you. So it's you, Ted. Okay. We've discovered that Ted is the is the dancer of the group. But kidding aside, though, how much freedom do do you individually have as far as like, Mia was suggesting pitching ideas, and I'm curious to know more about that process. Like, how does that evolve?
I feel like we have an incredible amount of freedom. Once everything is kind of launched and we've kind of talked to directors, a lot of times they're like, just create. Like we know what they're looking for, so the directors are really asking us to show them what we think. And I think it's really freeing. Like, we have an opportunity to say, this is what I think it should look like, and then we pitch it, and then everyone else has an opportunity to kind of say, oh, well, that's cool, or we could grow it here, or whatever other input they might have. But like, I've always felt on every project that I've worked on so far that the sky is the limit. We can just show that it can work, and I think that's pretty cool.
I think that is the phase where we call it the blue sky.
Like blue sky.
Right, like super. It's out there. But yeah, like when I first came in at Blizzard, like having that kind of phase before going full steam ahead on a project is very it's very cool to see how everyone has like a different perspective, how they have their own interpretation of the story. And I think that's like a good way to find like a common, like a common goal. Like, okay, what is the basic kind of essence of the story?
Is there sort of a method for sort of shopping those ideas in like a safe space, or how does that like, you have the writers, you have these different groups. Is there some mechanism that you guys use to sort of get all that together?
For me, the first line of defense is these guys in the room. Like I'm always happy to say, hey, look at my dumb drawings. What do you guys think? Like, where am I going here? And have an opportunity to pick their brains, because we're really fortunate that like everyone is super talented. Like all the board artists are just incredible storytellers with these varied backgrounds. So I'm always excited to see what they think about my ideas and what ideas they have that might really kind of make it sing. We actually have a thing called a strike team, which is generally, actually, everyone I've been in has been led by a director. So I think that's probably how they always go. But the strike teams will have a director. They'll have editors, writers, board artists, producers. We will typically take a look at the current the current mock-up of the animatic. We'll watch it. We'll have feelings, and then we'll discuss, and we'll say, what's working, what's not. Can we make this piece stronger? I was in a meeting mere moments ago where the director was asking about what might we think about cutting. So everything is up for discussion in these meetings.
And those, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ted.
No. What I noticed at Blizzard so prominently is really every voice matters. And if there are 4 people or 15 people in a room in a strike team, 15 people voices matter. And anyone can chime in. There's really no set parameters. I mean, a good story is a good story. And a great idea is a great idea. And it comes from everybody. And we do in our bullpen, we call out to each other for great ideas. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, we all help to shape each of these stories.
Yeah, I think my very first day, I stepped into one of these strike teams, and it was on a board that Ted was working on, and I was able to kind of come in and offer some notes that ended up making it into the final cut. So even me on my very first day, like without any idea of what was going on, I was able to come in and to contribute.
Yeah, talk about some fresh eyes.
Yeah, he saved the day. Jerry said was flying out on vacation, and he came in and took over, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and just to elaborate a little bit, I mean, I think the strike teams happen a little bit before it comes to us too, right? Like in the writing rooms, I know a lot of times they try to get us in there so we can kind of chime in on the writing side, like the treatment side, so that even before it comes to us, we have a chance to kind of share our ideas. And you know, when we're in storyboarding, we have all the different kind of disciplines there. And, you know, Jake, when it goes to your guys' team, editorial, and the strike team's there, I mean, we're also there kind of looking at the edit together. And now we're kind of supporting the editors who are kind of the point people. And so it's a very kind of cool process.
I think that's a good point, because it's something we employ at an early stage, and we take it and are in that environment through to basically till we get buy off and we're ready to push something into production. And I think the input that the different disciplines provide early on and even throughout the process really shows, it really strikes a chord with the collaborative nature of our teams and our groups that work in such close proximity to sculpt these cinematic experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to add on to that, like by the time you see the end product, like, you know, as a team or even just me watching it, you kind of feel that sense of sense of pride that you help shape that story, and even if your ideas didn't get picked or whatnot, like, you know, like you kind of help in the process of developing that idea.
Yeah, I was wondering, like Erie, for you, like coming to Blizzard, the strike teams, was that like a new experience for you as well? Did that take kind of getting used to kind of just
I
being in the
think it
mix?
definitely got a bit time to get used to, because on TV, I guess like there's something not really similar, but there's like a handout meeting where you have the director and the writer and I guess the showrunner sometimes, and the board is to like go through the script and just talk about it for a bit before you jump onto boarding. But and then for pitches, you are also have meeting of that. But besides that, I feel like strike team is a bit different, where it's a combination of like a team of like just like everyone, including the editors and all the other writers, or even this dev sometimes. They would join to help with the story throughout while you're boarding too. So if there's a problem, you're not the only one solving it. We're solving it with everyone. So I think that's part is like a huge difference. And in the beginning, it took a while to get used to, only because I'm not used to having so many like meetings with a lot of people at the same time. But it's like a really cool experience to have. And like Mio said, like the project is not just you drawing, you're having all these ideas from everyone, and you're culminating into one thing. So at the end, you really feel like good about putting that into it.
I totally agree with that. I think like in TV, like there's the analogous thing, like Ari was saying, would be like a handout meeting where you start, then you do your roughs, and then the next similar meeting would be the pitch meeting where you pitch your idea. And so those things happen probably like over the course of like your one episode that you're working. There are just those two meetings versus at Blizzard, when we're working on a cinematic, like while you're on that cinematic, those meetings are happening either every day or like every other day, depending on which cinematic it is, and it's it really kind of keeps the process going. It's not it doesn't to me, it doesn't feel like a burden. It could take some getting used to, like transitioning from TV to games, but it's really kind of part of the everyday mix of creating, I think.
If I can add to this too, and I think Mike, you can attest to this. When we first started 11 years ago, it wasn't always like this. There was a certain ways that things were done, but it also speaks very strongly as to how Blizzard is constantly trying to evolve and improve on methods. Mm-hmm. And this is the result of that constant search for the best ways to do things, without straying away from the core Blizzard philosophy of it's not perfect until it's perfect, and we'll keep searching for that, best story, and we won't release the game until it's perfect. That sort of that core philosophy, it's still very strong here, but at the same time there's always that search for, let's do things better. How can we be more efficient? And we feel that, and we're encouraged to seek for that all the time.
Yeah, that's I think it also what the strike team's environment, it really harks on what we talked about earlier as being a highly iterative environment. To your point about it's ready when it's ready. We're seeking perfection, or we're seeking very close to it.
Right.
And that is something that we've done. We probably do a lot more boarding for our shorts than would be considered normal on shows like movies.
That's
or
for sure.
TV.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And that's all in the pursuit, because we don't work in a vacuum, right? Like
Yeah.
our work is highly collaborative. You guys are meeting with people all the time in these strike teams, and there's reviews, approvals, and then there's the ultimate meetings that we have when we work with our game teams, working with their creative teams for each individual franchises, partnering with them, making sure we're creating content that's supporting what their goals are. So Ted, I wanted to see if you could continue to give us some insight on what it's like to work with some of the game teams, and please, anybody else jump in as well.
Well, it's a family affair, isn't it? Because coming from my background in the live action for 20 plus years, you spend a lot of time doing the director's vision, and I'll walk into the office and they'll hand you a page or two of shot lists, and my job is to be that mechanical person who just sketch out their vision solely, and at the end of the day, you go home. It's nice. It's been fun, but at the end of the day, there's not much satisfaction to be had. Unlike at Blizzard, where you are collaborating with the game team, it gives you, and this speaks about why we have so much time, or we have more time than most other studios to do our work, is because we're often working in tandem with them. As they're building the games, we are building the stories for the cinematic. And we could have a certain degree of the stories done, but they are still developing on this end. And we could be working like this constantly. And there are times when they'll change the whole concept, and characters will hold it, and we'll go back and rethink. And that happens quite a lot, but it's part of the reality of working at Blizzard. I think it's a whole lot of fun to do that. It keeps us on our toes. We're not beholden to outside entities that we are always constantly trying to meet deadlines and pushing things out that we're not satisfied with. So I'm enjoying it a great deal.
One of the things you said there that I think is really interesting is the flexibility, right? Like it's almost like we're helping build the plane as we're trying to fly it, in a sense. Working alongside the game team, and you sort of touched on the idea of like, well, we have a character do X, Y, Z, but now they're not going to do that anymore in the game, so it doesn't make sense for cinematic. So how can we pivot that? And this group is instrumental to that. In those early days of building animatics and building, these cinematic experiences. I wonder if anybody has any additional insight on what that's like to sort of be, what it's like to go through one of those pivots, as it were.
I think like working with the game team, like we share a similar goal of like how can we make the story better. And I think as a storyboard team, like it's our duty to actually make sure that we meet that goal, that like like let's say we get a script, like we want to visually interpret that, and how would that add into the storytelling? How would that make the story that the game team is trying to convey a lot more interesting to people, instead of like, like we've seen that, or it's been done, you know, like we want to try it the Blizzard way. We want to try it that, oh, this anime or this cinematic has that Overwatch flavor or that Diablo flavor. So we always try to improve the story, like to reach that goal.
Yeah, I think like one of the cool things that I've noticed is that when you're working with the game team, like you could be working on a cinematic, or maybe like an in-game cinematic or something like that, and it's like you're dealing with characters interacting, and you're moving things around, and they're like, oh well, the game team comes in and they're like, well, like this is cool, but maybe we should like turn these characters in this direction, because here in this spot there's going to be this building, or like there's this physical like structure that they want to highlight, or there's some aspect of gameplay that we want to give a nod to, like in the cinematic. So sometimes they'll actually show you like footage of or like a pre-build of the game, so that you can actually have an understanding of what the player will be experiencing, so that you can bring that into the cinematic. And in TV, like there's nothing that comes close to being that experience, because as a board artist in TV, like what you board is the end product, more or less. It's like that's what's going to end up on the screen, and it doesn't like represent some other aspect of the entertainment. So I think that's a really cool, unique thing about games.
We're really just a hop, skip, and jump from each other. It's very cool. If you need anything and any ideas pertaining to the character designs, they're right there.
Right, and that's the next thing I wanted to ask, because I think Jerry's onto something there. It is definitely a unique experience, because you're not just crafting a one-off story. Sometimes we are, but generally it's always in service of the game experience overall. So how it impacts our players or fans. Obviously the game teams, the game designers, the gameplay itself is going to impact what's going on in our cinematics, because we really try to mesh those experiences so they feel connected as much as possible. But it works the other way as well. Like if there's something in our boards or in our drawings and our cinematics that could influence the game itself. I was wondering if anybody could share any experiences about that.
I think Mia has a great story.
Mike was gonna say something first. Yeah, like I had like the best experience when we were developing the McCree story. One of our directors, Jason Hill, when he first pitched to me the McCree short, there was no any like design. Like, I mean, we do have like the scripts, like the old scripts, but in terms of like, because I remember Echo, she was part of that, but we don't have her developed yet at that time. And even Ash and Bob, we don't have any designs for that. So I was just doing a few rough beat boards for Jason. And for some reason, like just based off his direction and his vision, I kind of saw like this a Bob character as like a huge Mac with a mustache and a bowler hat. So I just drew it for fun. Like, hey, you know what? Might as well just add like a mustache on the Omnic. And later on, like everyone loved it. It kind of stick to it. And as soon as they started doing the concept design for Ash and Bob, like one of our concept designers, Jonga Lee, she kind of implemented all the designs that I did for Bob and Ash as well. And then yeah, the rest was history, and that was really fun. Like it's kind of fun to see how your boards came to life, like literally. Like at first I was like, oh, this is just like placeholders, but eventually it became part of the game, and eventually like that's something that we all know and love now, and part of the Overwatch universe. Yeah.
I think that's awesome, because I've seen tons of work from all of you over the years, and see how some of these things that were just literally just a wacky idea thrown into the piece, and it just becomes now a beloved character as part of one of our tentpole franchises. And I think that has to be a feeling of just visceral appreciation for the process of that we go through our collaboration and working with the game teams alongside and partnering with them. I think Mike, I believe you had a similar story.
We worked on a cinematic last year for Overwatch called 0 Hour. I think Ted, did you work on it too?
I dabbled in different scenes because I
Ted
kept
dabbled.
getting away to do Fenris.
He likes to dab.
And Mio and I were on it. And as some of you know, Winston and company were in trouble, and Genji shows up to kind of not save the day, but he's showing up to help Winston. And I think in boards, we're talking about that moment, and I was talking to Ben Dai, our director, and just pitching the idea of, oh, maybe he's coming in a hoodie, like incognito. So it's similar to Mio's story, just drawing it in the boards, and then drawing that moment and the reveal of Genji was kind of something that happened in the boards. And I don't know if it's a skin, but maybe.
I think that's cool. I think I purchased the Genji hoodie because it looks cool. So
Nice.
Thank you, Mike.
I think it works well too, because it actually fits the story. He's trying to arrive, in disguise, but it's also kind of a cool outfit.
Yeah, the audience knows who it is almost immediately if you're familiar with Overwatch, but in the context of the story, it's a big reveal for him to Winston to reveal himself. And it went on to be severely loved by the game team and all of us at the animation studio. And as Jerry mentioned, you can pick up your own Genji hoodie.
I was fortunate enough to also had a great idea stayed in the story that was working on the May cinematic with Ben Dai.
Oh yeah.
And there was tea element in there that it wasn't in the script. I just thought it'd be another wild, wacky idea that might work, and I just threw in a tea farewell sort of visual. I wasn't expecting it to be, really noticed, but apparently they liked it enough to keep it in the cinematic. So
it's a really touching moment as well. So thank you for that.
Right, real quick, I want to say too, like I think we're all fans of Blizzard games as well. We play the game, so I mean, there are times when just being a player, you kind of know what would be a cool moment, and as a player, like, oh, if this happens and, everyone's gonna freak out. It's like I remember on StarCraft and, Protoss, Legacy of the Void kind of stuff, and how, choreographing all that action and thinking about from a player's kind of point of view, a Protoss player. And I think being a fan of our stories and games helps craft these moments.
Yeah, I think it definitely, like I said, speaks to the idea of connecting the experiences, right? We're not just content creators, as much as that's a weird term, but we live alongside the fans and players in these worlds, so we can better, hopefully, engineer the moments in the cinematics so they feel like we know what we're doing, we know our characters, we know our worlds. With a high degree of success, hopefully.
On that note, coming from someone who is not a gamer, at the end of the day, it's the reaction from our fans, especially during BlizzCon, because I feel like we're so steep in what we do all year long, and it seems like everything culminates to that one weekend in November when thousands of our fans congregate. at BlizzCon, and we sometimes forget that all these cinematics that we have done are being seen by all these loving fans. And when you're actually there, elbow to elbow with them, and to see their reaction and feel their reaction, it's absolutely amazing. It is extraordinary.
Supposed to be the most advanced security system on the planet.
Absolutely. And it's the good old days when we used to go places and be in rooms together.
Right. Yeah.
Erie, I wanted to circle back to you on this. I think I know we can't talk about all the stuff we're working on, but I think, do you have any experiences or any stories you would like to share regarding?
I think one thing I do think I could think of is like on a project I was working on this character, like a new character that even the game team was still working on, and from what I heard, there are different ideas of what this character moves or how this character would act, and I guess a storyboard at the end actually helped help these people have like a better cohesive idea together to like come together in a like common ground of, okay, I think this is what we want. So I thought that was pretty cool.
So you helped guide them to a place where they're really happy with the character. That's awesome.
I hope so.
We'll see, right? We'll see. Okay, so over the years, we have developed, as Ted mentioned, many different processes and ways to be more efficient, to work better, to be more collaborative. And I wanted to ask Jerry, you kind of touched on it earlier, but I wanted to sort of check in with you. Like, you're the newest member of the group for this panel, and what are some of the biggest differences that you noticed coming from television and other medium to working in video games, especially at Blizzard?
I think probably the biggest change, the biggest difference is time. Like, we have time and space to really explore ideas. The deadlines are not structured the same way as they are in television. Like, you have in TV, you have a ship date, and the entire production is like racing to that moment. So there isn't the opportunity to take a breath and say, is this necessarily the best thing that we could do in this moment? I think that's probably like the biggest thing that sticks out. And then one of the things that I'm most fond of is the collaboration. Like, we keep talking about that, but in TV, I would say it's probably like, it would be a super weird thing for a board artist to be in an editing bay with an editor and sort of discussing, a moment or, any kind of thing like that. Like, I think that's really cool. Like, the opportunities that I've had to work with editors and really, kind of refine story moments, or even just, see how we could help each other out to tell a better story, like to have an opportunity to be like, hey, Jake, would it be helpful if I gave you a couple more expressions here in this scene? Or, maybe, like, would you like to see some different coverage? Like, would that help you sell this moment? Like, maybe if I give you like an overhead or a wide, like that kind of thing. Like, it's to me, like, that's one of the one of the most fun things to do, is like to have that kind of an impact on story, but to do it, with other super talented, creative people.
I think what's interesting about what you just said there is it sort of leads to the idea that you're not just board artists. You are, and you're amazing, but you're also wearing a lot of hats. Even some of the things you may not be super comfortable with, like perhaps some folks are more comfortable talking about camera motion of the camera, pacing, editing. Some people like to talk about dialogue, and you all have to sort of play into all of that, because you're working with those disciplines, but you're providing so much material to the two editors, for the director and the writers to see and work with. I just think that's an incredibly useful, useful skill for sure. But I think all of you do it quite well, and I would love to hear more about sort of the needs of being flexible and agile in this environment.
Well, that's for sure. But at the same time, I think people need to know that being a storyboard artist is not just being flexible. It's actually being able to wear those hats and understand that we are in varying degrees co-directing, co-editing, co-acting. We're performing, and we're doing all of these things. We have to understand the lighting, the camera, the lenses, the acting as well. I keep saying we are all of that, and we should strive to be better at those things. And speaking to potential people who might be coming on board, these are the things that are really required to be good storyboard artists.
Yeah.
But when you get to a certain point where it becomes sort of an automatic, instinctive, then it's one of the most satisfying and fun career.
I think
Yeah.
In TV, like storyboarding definitely requires all of wearing many hats, and also in TV or feature on other places too. But I think Blizzard especially is very requires more on that. Like also, it welcomes you to put your color in these projects.
Exactly what you said is like 100% true. Like you get to put your color, your voice, your aesthetic. You like your contribution matters like at every step. And I think that again, like the nature of how Blizzard produces cinematics, what I think is unique is that, like Ted said, a storyboard artist on any production in any medium is wearing all these hats, but Blizzard allows you to see it from the editor's point of view. Like because you get to work with the editor, you have a better understanding of what the editor's needs are, because you can just say, hey Jake, what are your needs? Like what are you looking for? And that makes you a better storyteller, because other parts of the pipeline. Whereas in TV, like for sure, you just don't, there isn't the structure of it isn't built to kind of handle that.
Right. Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, I think just the sheer amount of interactions and collaboration we have. I know over the years, and maybe Ted, you can kind of maybe have similar experience, but I know I've learned from so many people, from just being in writers' rooms, learning how they talk about story structure and character. And, we talk to previs artists, we learn about camera and lenses and, editorial and the pacing and just the different directors as well, and their kind of approach to their craft and their vision for things. I know I came in kind of like, oh, I'm just going to do action, 24/7. But then I think being at Blizzard, I've grown, I think, in so many ways as far as my filmmaking. And I think what everyone is saying is I always felt like I could express myself within the sandbox that we're given.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's like an action scene, I feel like, ooh, I've kind of really choreographed this moment, and it ends up kind of on the screen. Or if I stage a certain way or in acting, a lot of times it goes to the end. And that's really, really rewarding.
What's cool about all this is when we talk about working with all these different people, using directors as an example, many of our directors actually come from within Blizzard, from different departments. And you can tell in their directing styles as to, based on their background, what they're strong at. Some are better, compositions and styles of setting up cameras and things like that. And some has a better take on the texturings and lightings and things like that based on their previous practices.
Yeah.
So it's fun to learn from them, from each individuals.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they all have very, very strong passion about storytelling. And I think that's why we work so well together with them.
Yeah. And also to add on what you're saying, Ted, and to what Jerry, Erie, and Mike were also talking about earlier, is that as individuals, like we all have our different, different interpretation of the story. And I think this is where like being flexible of, like I would interpret like a sci-fi differently than what Ted would do a sci-fi action is, or Mike would do, or Jerry or Erie. And the same way with like a horror theme of a project, like we would have like a different interpretation of what is scary and what is fun or what is action-packed. So in a way, we grow more, the more ideas we put out, I think the more we learn and the more we grow as an artist, as storytellers. So I think that's what makes the whole process fun for me.
That's right, Mio. Remember when you first came, Mio? You used to draw arms and hands,
Yeah, like,
just triangles, just triangles, and we're like, hey, Mio, maybe you should try to draw like a wrist. And now you get, it's like fully an arm and
like a hand.
But interestingly,
leveled up, man.
I'm trying to draw like Mio. My hands are becoming more like.
It's like cyclical.
It's a circle now. Circle of life.
Hey, sometimes Jake is drawing storyboards and editorial as well, right?
Yeah.
Jake?
I'm modifying. It's very different.
Hey, you're throwing in your custom boards right there.
Usually eyeballs. That's where my skill limit is. So we kind of talked about everybody's, small little bit about their backgrounds and what they did before Blizzard, and but I'm curious to know why you came to Blizzard and what keeps you going here.
Mike, or you want to go first?
I can
Yeah.
go. So I've been at Blizzard 11 years, and when I think about Blizzard, it just it has a really great creative culture. Like I feel like when I'm working with our fellow teammates and we're trying to create these wonderful stories together, not only are we creating, I think, fantastic cinematics and movies, but I think the people we work with are really like amazing artists. And it's, I think we've spoken about it in the talk, but I've always felt like I can express myself. There's room and opportunity to grow and kind of level up as an artist. And just to share quickly, I mean, I remember when in college, we were huddled around the laptop and looking at StarCraft cinematics and just thinking the world of them, right? And we were just geeking out. We're going to go home for break and play the games. And I remember at that moment, like kind of the impact it made on me. And so now thinking that now I'm on the other side of it and thinking that, well, we have a chance to, within our own sphere of, storytelling, to create these moments for players and our fans out there, and just to create moments of entertainment and hope and joy, and for that brief moment where they kind of see our work and try to kind of impact their lives kind of in that way. And I think those things that is what's kind of kept me here at Blizzard.
And in my case, I have two boys who are both hardcore Blizzard game players back when they were younger. And the constant battle to tell them to stop playing and do their homework instead, that went on for a long time, but I had no idea that those were Blizzard games until Blizzard came calling. And because I had no idea who Blizzard was, I sort of was reluctant to listen to what they had to say until finally I gave him the time, and he said, just come in and have a meeting with us. And I did. I went out, and the first thing I said was, guys, I think you have the wrong person. I don't play games. I don't know, what this is all about. And they said, we don't need you to play games necessarily. We want you to help us tell stories. We have a film department. And that's when I said, oh, really? And sure enough, Blizzard has its own film department, cinematic department. I went back home and I told my sons, or at the dinner table, I said I was at Blizzard today, and I had no idea who these people are. And both my boys went crazy. They lit up, and they basically said, you have to work at Blizzard. And here I am, 11 years later.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think for me, like I've been at Blizzard for just about a full year. I definitely knew who Blizzard was when when I applied. Yeah, I remember like being really into Diablo as a kid. So you know, it was really cool. And then just to have the opportunity to kind of tell my family members and you know who are they're all gamers to some degree or another, like just how excited they were that I was coming over to Blizzard. It's super cool. And you know, I really enjoyed the team. I enjoy working with all the artists, all the creativity, all the opportunities we have to tell fun stories, and it's really been fantastic.
Like for me, like I've been with Blizzard for 5 years now, and I took a small break, kind of like what Jake mentioned, and I came back because again, it's the creative environment and the collaboration is something like I truly enjoy at Blizzard. Um, it's really great just like coming into the office. Well, now we're working from home, but we're actually get to meet online. But getting to talk to the directors and getting to work with the editors and of course like getting their insight on how we create these cinematics is such a fun learning experience for me, and that's one of the highlights of my career, like in my history of career. So uh, yeah, it's really great. It's been really fun working at Blizzard.
I worked a little bit over a year now. It's my first game related like place I worked on. So I think what Jerry said, it's very coming from TV. It was very unique and it's really, uh, in a way, freeing to like put your voice into these projects. And I think that's like a really unique thing that you can only get here. I think that's why I really enjoy working here, and also get to work with so many talented and amazing people like in my team and also in different teams. Um, I think that's why I'm still working here.
So, obviously there's a lot of methods as a group that we employ. So we have our strike team, we have our collaboration process, iteration. But what does it mean individually? Like, how do you each of you tackle your individual process once you dive into a project?
So like for me, one of the things I like to do is like after the script and the meeting and all that kind of stuff, like I'll start doing thumbs and blocking things out. But I am notorious for actually like using my action figures and taking photos. And recently, Blizzard actually got really cool, like what are those figures called? The
Kaboom!
the
Sticky Bones.
yeah, the sticky bones that we can use as a tool. So like I really like to take shots and you know, get cool angles and kind of setups for what might be neat shots to put into my boards. So that's something that I like to do.
I guess the obvious question to follow that is when can we see those photographs?
Dun, dun,
Never.
dun.
Oh, man.
Never,
I feel,
never.
I feel like that would be fun to see. Well, Jerry, what is the most complicated? You don't have to, if it's something unreleased, you don't have to mention it. But what's one of the most complicated action figure setups that you set up for one of our shows?
Well, I can't say what it is related to, but let's say a lot of my Superman and Transformers were involved in a very tense kind of standoff.
Transformers.
All right. We'll
Yeah.
just
They
beep it.
make yeah
Beep, beep, beep.
robot toys.
That transforms.
Nice.
You'll never guess.
Erie, what about you? Is there any sort of unique tool or method you employ for when you get to work on stuff?
I don't know if I have any unique. I feel like it really differs in project to project. Sometimes it's pretty straight to a point of what they want, so I just go straight for it. where sometimes I'm not really too sure how to tackle it. So from that meeting or strike team that just came out of in the meeting, they would mention a lot of like references of like movie clip or movie scenes, or those kind of stuff that they bring up about for references to the board. So I would just go through those references, try to watch those or any movies that can help with what I'm trying to find, and then try to get some ideas or write stuff down to what I would think is important as a beat, and then I think just let it happen. Yeah.
That's really cool. I think the stuff we make, we're obviously all viewers of movies, television, games, and leveraging some of those inspirational ideas is probably really important to our process.
Yeah.
How about anybody else? Does anybody else have any?
To me, like the most important thing is having like a clear diagram of where everything is. So before I start, I always ask the director, show me where everyone is before I start plotting the cameras, because I think it's really important, especially if you're thinking about like, ooh, what's the money shot, or what's like the most
Give me the money.
yeah, exactly. Like what is the most dynamic shot that you can milk out of that scene? So I think for me, like I try to establish like a like a set diagram or a set layout, and then I try to test out some cameras like based off that layout or diagram. Like I try to do some thumbnails, and then if I'm not happy with the thumbnails that I'm getting, like the composition because of that layout, I try to shift some stuff around, and then I try to pitch to the director like, oh, maybe that character is on a higher ground, or like this character is on a lower ground. Like think about like how can we take advantage of the environment. So I mean, like especially me, I came from like doing background designs before, so I'm really like very meticulous about like how can we use the environment to our advantage as storytellers.
I think Mike and I, like we were working on a board together, and we were actually working in VR, and I think that's like one of the super cool things that we've been able to do. I don't even like. Are we allowed to talk about that?
Yeah,
is that a thing we can say? Yeah. Like could like Mike, can you, because you were setting up actual
action figures, virtual action figures. But yeah, I mean, I think we're always trying to, what was mentioned before, we're always trying to find better ways to do what we do and kind of innovate, and just seeing what VR could do. We experimented a bit with setting up scenes in VR, so we would quickly block out characters and scenes and then put on the headset, and then we could set up cameras and almost walk around the set like a live action set. And it was a really good way to I guess see the staging and see moments that maybe we wouldn't normally think of just drawing, but being just literally in there. Whoa, that's a great angle, and oh, they're walking this way, and how about we frame it like that? And then we pitch it to directors, and that actually got we use it in production. It's pretty awesome.
I think something that's in line with that is in some of the shows we work on, I've definitely seen you all employ like the actual in-game maps or scenery, as used as a backdrop for when you are drawing, as almost like an overlay. Does anybody want to talk about that? Or maybe it's not something you guys do anymore. I don't know.
No, I was going to say.
No. I mean,
I was just going to my personal styles and method. I'm feeling like I'm the Rip Van Winkle of the bunch here. When I was busy working in the advertising and commercial business, Google didn't exist at the time. You either had to go out and buy books for references, or you had to learn to store everything in your head. And that is what I've done all my life. So that I think out of the whole bunch here, I don't sketch things out. I would go into the meeting, I would get the script, and I'll talk to the directors, and then I would go to my board and I would just board it out.
Like butter.
Wow.
They were
Yeah, because
superhuman.
I don't feel like I have the time to go and build things, you know, although I should, and I'm learning. We're talking about evolution, and that's my personal evolution. I'm trying to learn to do these things that these guys are doing as I should. But I tend to just go ahead and enjoy that.
Well, that's why we're like, Ted, how do you draw this? How do you draw this angle or this pose? We're like,
And just
oh,
like,
yeah.
just draw
Ted's
it.
like,
I saw it in the vision.
yeah, just draw it.
But yeah, like Jake, like you were saying, like as far as like using existing game images as backgrounds, like that's definitely a technique that if it is available, then like I would say definitely use it, just because, you know, like there's not going to be a better reference than the actual, you know, piece of information from the game. So if it's there, then definitely use it. And sometimes the directors will go ahead and send it to you. Like they'll have an idea for a shot, and they'll, take a capture from the game team, and they'll just give it to you, and you've got it to use as a reference or a starting point, or it can just stay in your background through the whole scene.
It's great to see there's so many different methods and tools and manners of working employed, and then you guys are totally willing to sort of jump on, help each other, learn things, try different things. I mean, it sounds like the environment is really, really full of just helping each other level each other up, level each other's process up.
We truly are a family here, and it feels this way at work every day when we're at work.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely a really strong team, and I think we have a lot of chemistry together, and we really use it to make fun, exciting stories.
Well, thank you all very much. We really appreciate all the candid insight, stories, and juicy info. And thank you, CTN audience, for stopping by. We hope you enjoyed the panel and encourage you to stop by blizzardentertainment.com, at Blizzard Careers, and at Life at Blizzard for more info on the company, our culture, and any career opportunities. Stick around as we will have a live Q&A shortly. Until next time, friends, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See you guys.
Till next time.
Bye. See you.
Parting is such sweet sorrow.
Like Shakespearean. Love it.